Hey guys, it's your boy 14 Fluffies here. Today I am bringing you my first ever YGOPro DevPro deck profile. If any of you guys have seen the video that Shatner posted that was titled Mod Wars, this was the deck I was playing that day, and it was in fact Cyberfex, so let's get into the deck profile. Starting off, we have the obligatory triple Cyber Dragon, the main rank 5 starter of the deck. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can just special summon it from your hand. Next up, 3 copies of Cyber Dragon Dre. He is a mandatory 3 of in any Cyber Dragon build, just because you can normal summon it and he can become a level 5 monster. He helps accelerate your rank 5 plays, although he does have an unfortunate stipulation built into him that you cannot special summon monsters except machine type monsters the turn you activate his effect, which means before and after you activate it means during any time during the turn. So yeah, you have to be mindful of what you're going to be going into if you're going to use Dre. Next up, triple Cyber Dragon Core. He is also mandatory because he searches out Cyber Repair Plant, and also any cyber or cybernetic spell or trap. This, of course, really most people only just play Repair Plant. I mean, a while back people still played Network and Cybernetic Fusion support, but really, those cards are either too slow or just not practical, so Repair Plant's normally the only card you would add off of Core. And of course, Core has a very, very important grave effect where you can banish him from the graveyard and special summon a Cyber Dragon monster from your deck. Okay, starting next off with the non-Cyber Dragon support monsters, we have 3 copies of Galaxy Soldier. He is also a staple in any actual build of Cyber Dragons, even if it's not like rank 5 spam variant, even if it's like Power Bond variant, you still need to play Galaxy Soldiers, just because he's still an extra machine. He's not necessarily a Cyber Dragon, though, so he can't help you get to, like, your Rampage Dragons or your Twin Dragons, but he's still very useful for loading up your graveyard. Reason why is because you can just pitch a light monster from your hand, and he special summons himself. So that could be a Cyber Dragon, anything that would be a Cyber Dragon in graveyard, or even your artifacts. So yeah, really, he should almost always be live, plus he searches another copy of himself afterwards when he hits the field. So you never go minus with him, which is very important. So you can say, I don't know, go special Cyber Dragon, special reveal Galaxy Soldier to activate it, pitch a Core, or I don't know, like a Scythe or something, and then you special summon himself. He would search another copy of himself, and then of course you can just go wombo combo. I mean, if you're pitching a Cyber Dragon, well, something that's treated as a Cyber Dragon in the graveyard, you can go into your Nova, you can make wombo combos and probably OTK them if you have a decent normal summon like Dre. And that rounds up all the machines for the deck. Next up with the artifacts, we have triple Scythe. Normally you wouldn't want to play triple Scythe just because it could clog, but because we're playing Galaxy Soldier, which can just pitch it, you could that mitigates it really if you just keep drawing artifacts, really. And triple Scythe is really good. Well, Scythe is just the best artifact in general right now, just because of the fact that he can interrupt plays from the extra deck. Like, he can really water down a Pendulum summon. If you flip it, if you can resolve Scythe versus Burning Abyss, they're stuck with their Malbranches on field and they can't really do anything with them. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, if they have Fire Lake, they have Fire Lake, oh well, but still, it really hurts that they can't get to their Dantes, you know, so on and so forth. And for the next artifact, of course, the one Marltac. He is a necessity, really. He's so good, but he's so good, especially in the Cosmo matchup, just because he can pop all the ships and not really give a fuck about them. Like, he does not care about Dark Destroyer, he is your main out to Dark Destroyer in this deck, since we're not playing cards like Honest. I mean, yeah, we are playing the Fortress Dragons, but if you can't get to a Fortress Dragon, this card helps you get out those big ships. And for the last artifact, the one Beagletack. Just because if you do draw any of your artifacts, you can like Ignition, you can go like Ignition, Beagletack. Like if you open up Ignition, Beagletack, you can pop your Beagletack, and then of course you set your artifact, Beagletack will activate in the next chain, and then so on and so forth. And that wraps up the monsters. For the spells, we have triple Cyber Repair Plant. This is obviously your main searcher for the deck. You can add it off Core. And yeah, So yeah, you do need to play triple repair plant. It also has an effect where if you can also, you know, put a machine type monster back into your grave and shuffle it into your deck. So yeah, there's that. And if you have 3 monsters that are Cyber Dragon in your graveyard, 3 Cyber Dragon monsters in your graveyard, you can activate both effects in sequence. So yeah, you would search and then you would put back in deck. Next up, triple machine duplication. This is obviously just for core. The reason why we're playing 3 is because you want to see it as often as you want to see it as soon as possible. Because if you open core plus machine dupe, it's really, really good. It's a +2 because you can obviously get your +1 off core, and then you get your +1 off of getting the 2 Cyber Dragons off of machine dupe. Next up, 3 ignition because you're playing artifacts, and it's also your MST for the deck as well. And for the last spell, Raigeki. Pretty basic spell lineup. I like it simple and straightforward because realistically, like your monster effects and your back row, your monster effects and your traps are going to be what actually does the majority of the work in the deck. And for speaking of traps, for the first up we have Triple Sanctum. It's the best card in artifacts by far. I mean, Sanctum for Scythe, Sanctum for Merle-Tack, Sanctum for Beagle Tack, pop a Scythe in your back row, you know, stuff like that. And to help, you know, support the Scythe spam, we have Triple Call the Haunted. Call the Haunted is just very good because it just helps you interrupt your opponent's plays much more consistently, especially considering how Galaxy Soldier can let you turbo your sides, or well, it can help you turbo any of your artifacts into the graveyard basically if you draw them. So yeah, there's that. And go along with the Triple Call the Haunted, we have Triple Oasis. You'd think that Triple Call and Triple Oasis would clog. It really doesn't for some reason. I actually like this a lot, and even if I don't want the even if Oasis isn't very favorable in that matchup, it's in any given matchup, I can just side it out, no problem. And then next up, 2 strikes. We don't need 3, really. You don't really need the negation. You don't need extra negations in this deck, really, because we are playing Infinity. But Strike is really there just to stop Pendulum Summons and, you know, Exceeds, really. So it's more or less just used to stop summons than to stop effects. And, of course, to go along with the Strike, we have the 1 Warning and the 1 Vanity's Emptiness. So yeah, it's a very simple and basic main deck. Very, very simple, straightforward. That's the way I like to play Cybers. So yeah, rank 5 of spam. I like to have it be consistent. I would like to add upstarts, but really, the copies of Oasis are just too important, really, because I always want to open up with at least one of these, maybe even multiples if I know I can guarantee I can get a Scythe into the graveyard. But yeah, on to the extra deck. For the fusions, of course, we have the 1 Barbaroid. That's just when Nova gets destroyed by a card effect. And yeah, this is the guy that you always get out with Nova. It's Barbaroid. And for the last 2 fusions, of course, the 2 Chimeritic Fortress Dragons for the Cosmo matchup. I mean, this entire deck is Cyber Dragons. I mean, even if this card is the bane of Cosmo's existence. It hurts them more than Ironwall does because, you know, the stuff goes to grave. Starting off with the Exceeds, we're gonna start from, you know, rank 7 down. Go from the highest rank down. One Charger. Normally you just make Charger when you're just trying to go for game or if your opponent's trying to stall. 2 copies of Infinity. Initially I was just playing 1 just because I wanted to have more of an OTK than a control factor, but I found myself needing it 2 Infinity just because the first one gets outed very quickly and typically my opponent won't have an answer to the second Infinity. So yeah, 2 Infinity is a necessity, I would say. 3 Infinity is just, it takes up way too much space in the extra deck. I mean, if you can see it, I mean, you'd think I'd have room, but yeah, this is what you'll see when I explain my reasoning for these cards. Next up, 2 Zenmayo. The reason why I'm actually playing 2 is because of the fact that it's a machine, and really there aren't very many good rank 5 machine Exceeds in the TCG. I mean, when we get the it was the Super Quantum rank 5 Exceed. That was a machine. It was a Dino Leo, I think. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, it is a rank 5 Exceed machine. I think when that comes to the TCG, I'm probably going to drop Zenmayo to 1 and replace the second Zenmayo with one of that card. Actually, yeah. One Tyrus, because it's just a good rank 5. It has built-in spot removal, and it can't be destroyed by card effects. It's really good against Cosmo, actually. Just as long as, it doesn't get hit by Solemn Strike or stuff like that. Because, it is kind of immune to Dark Destroyer and such. So, yeah, it also... its effect does target, but it helps you, get rid of problem cards. Like Anti-Spell Fragrance or Cosmo Town. Next up, Toucan Stella Pleiades. This is by far the best rank 5 that to go into turn 1. It's much better than Infinity, trust me. Because realistically, though, is you can just bounce back your calls on Oasis at any time. You can stop your opponent's plays with it. It's much, much more effective than anything that Infinity could do against your opponent, in my opinion. We got one copy of Durandal because it helps support your artifacts a lot. And not to mention, it also can, screw over a lot of your opponent's monster effects. If you set, dead cards in your back row, you can just have this pop them to stop your opponent's effects from going off and such. And for the Elastic Seeds, triple Cyber Dragon Nova. I consider Nova to be a mandatory 3 of in any build of Cyber Dragons, just because this card has so much utility in the deck. It's such a good card in Cyber Dragons. The fact that it can just detach material and special summon another Cyber Dragon from the graveyard is just so good. Because it helps you extend plays, and you can just OTK out the ass with Nova. I mean, normally, like, my typical OTK field in general would just be like a Cyber Dragon, a Nova, and then an Infinity that has been ranked up from another Nova. So yeah, and there have been times where I've made triple Nova in games, and it's just like you really need a third Nova just to go along with everything. And not to mention, Nova's effect, Special Summon Machine Type Fusion from your extra deck, is just so good. It doesn't matter how it gets destroyed by a card effect. You can hit it with something like Solemn Strike, which would normally, prevent something like Nova's effect from triggering, since, it technically was never even summoned. But the way Nova is worded, it will always trigger. I mean, same thing with cards like Grand Horn of Heaven. And really, Grand Horn of Heaven would be a card that would technically make Nova miss timing, but, since it's an if effect, it will never miss timing as well, which makes Nova just that much better of a card. So yeah, it is a mandatory 3 of in any build of Cyber Dragons, especially the rank 5 variant of Cybers. And yeah, that's it for the extra deck. It's very simple, but it's super effective. Next, for the side deck, also very simple, but all my side decks are always works in progress. So let's get into it. Triple Artifact Lancia. This is normally just for matchups where Scythe is just dead as hell, normally, which would be Monarchs. And it's also really good against Cosmo as well. Just because we're not playing the Iron Wall, but because of how Cosmos work now, they have Tin Can, and Tin Can actually plays around Iron Wall. Tin Can does not play around this card, though, because you can just trigger it at any point in your hand if you draw it. So really, this is the only good artifact to ever draw, ever. So yeah, there's that. And then next up, Triple Maxi. The reason why I would play Maxi over Valor is just because of Burning Abyss. I know Pepe got hit by the emergency ban list there. I mean, Pepe isn't really even a bad matchup for this deck, actually, because if you can just go second, like if you can just sit on sides and just control them with sides, you can just OTK them eventually. Scythe or Infinity, yeah, you can just kill them at one point. But Maxi is for Burning Abyss or any kind of spam deck. Burning Abyss is easily this deck's hardest matchup this format, just because they can just sit on so much back row, and, they always are a deck that wants to go first, which is good for Cybers, but they're typically going to out-advantage you turn 1, and, if they have Fire Lake set, you're fucked. I mean, it doesn't even, if they fire like a Nova, you probably don't care as much, because Barbroid fucks over Burning Abyss, but, any smart Burning Abyss player would never let you even get to summon Nova. Next up, Triple MST. You could easily play Twin Twisters in this deck, but the only reason why I'm playing MST is just because, really, the amount of discard fodder the discard fodder there isn't very much of it, and it's not that great. I mean, yeah, you have your artifacts and, the stuff that would be treated as Cyber Dragon in the graveyard, because, that could get Repair Plant live, you can get your Call to Haunteds live for, if you ditch a Scythe or something, but, Twin Twister isn't really that great of a card now anymore, just because of the emergency ban list and the Performance Engine just getting completely just destroyed. So yeah, Twin Twisters is an alternative to MST, but I'm still just sticking with MST. Next up, Triple Mask Restrict for Monarchs. No need to explain that there. I mean, yeah, sometimes there are times where I actually want to tribute summon for Cyber Dragon, so that is the thing, but it's not that big of a deal, really. And for the last card, we got 3 copies of Gozen Match, just because everything in this deck is light, and the majority of the extra deck is also light. Because, you know, 2 Infinity, the Tyrus, and then the 2 Pleiades, the Durundle, and the Novas are all light, so vast majority of the stuff you're going into any time in this deck is light, except for maybe the occasions you go into Charger. Except for the occasions you go into Charger, really. I mean, Zenmayo you make in cases where you just don't need to make Nova, or if your opponent has back row that you're just scared of. But yeah, that's that. So that's the deck profile, guys. If you guys have any comments or questions or maybe suggestions for this deck, I'd be more than happy to hear them in the comment section below. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.